Yes, that is the right one. Have to get the technical stuff in order. So it is very nice that so many are still here. I'm really grateful for that. So we will dive into the next topic that we have. And we turned up the volume a bit. It was a bit difficult last time to hear what I was saying. Is it better now? On the back row? Very good. Very, very good. So next one we'll go through is called the nature of man and the cause of disease. And we'll do a bit repetition again, because some weren't here for the first part, and it's also very good to just look to what we have already learned so that we'll be on track. And I'll just see if the clicker here will function. And if I turn it on, it will function maybe. So, why is the cause of disease not known in the medical field? And we looked to it and we saw that we have no measurement to orientate ourselves after. And if you have no measurement, nothing to point you in the right direction, you will go in every direction and you will never agree on anything and you'll never get anywhere. So that is our problem. We have a building plan, we know what it's supposed to look like, but there's nothing to tell us, well, if it's 3 meters, what is 3 meters? Yeah. And the next problem we have is we don't know ourselves. We don't understand the needs of the human being. We found out that there are 2 types of information in this world. We have the self-evident, and we have the things that need interpretation. And this is the objects around us, the structures, and how things function. This is what gives us stability. This teaches us the measurement. And then we have the things that need interpretation. That's all the opinions around us, what people think about things. We have to check it to see, can this be true or not? Literature, studies, all of this needs interpretation. Also, the religious books need interpretation. Many of us, when we go to something, we don't know and we don't understand that everything we read through our own experience. And it is subjective. Experience is subjective. So experience can never be measurement. These things need interpretation, and it is very important to understand this. Does the Bible need interpretation? What? Can the Bible ever be its own interpreter? Can something that is purely physical do any thinking? If it can do no thinking, it cannot interpret itself. Everything needs interpretation. Every information needs to be withdrawn from words. And that the individual must do. And my sister will go much more into that. And that's why we also need a measurement. And we saw that we have a basic law in this universe. And this we see in the creation around us. This basic law teaches us that nothing can exist or function by itself. Everything needs energy that comes from outside. The second pillar of the law is that nothing can do anything for itself. Everything we have around us has a serving purpose. There's nothing in this world that does not have serving purpose. There is nothing in this world that works contrary to this law, except one single thing: the human heart. Everything works as a channel. It must take in order to give. It has an entrance and it has an exit. It has a cause and it has an effect. And therefore, everything works in a circuit. All problems in this world comes from this law being broken. All problems. If this law would not be broken, we would have no problems in this world. So what are we missing now? What we are missing is an understanding of the human being. If you don't know the need of the fish, you cannot help it. If we do not know and understand where the human being begins and ends, how can we give it what it needs? How can you stay inside the borders of the road? So here we have the human being. And does the human being have a structure? Like every object and everything around us? Yeah, we have a structure. Is the structure set? Yeah. It's universal. Do we have function? Do we work in a certain way? Yeah. This is stability. This is something we can put our feet on. And then we have basic needs. The things we need in order to live. The vital things we need in order to live. When these things are fulfilled, we have solved the problem. So what we need to know, what we need to know is what to put into the channel. Where and how to put it in. And then, of course, we need to know which buttons to push in order to get things going. So what are the needs of the human being? And we'll take them one more time. Here we have our needs: sunshine and water and food and air. And then we came to the conclusion that we also need love. But what is love? What is love? Information. So you say information. We begin with truth. Do we need truth? How do you react when somebody lies to you? No, nice. No. No. Security. How do you react when your security is shaken? When there is no more money in that account? And some more if you can, but if you can't, how do you react if you can't? What?
I said lawn clippings don't taste very nice. Lawn clippings don't taste very nice.
Oh, yeah, lawn clipping. That's true. But if you get disabled, how do you react in a situation where your means are taken away? Do you know that people kill themselves because of this? Harmony. Does anybody in here like harmony? Or do you really like when your spouse is in that special mood where they're not so happy anymore? Is that a need of the human being to have harmony? It's handy. It's handy. It's very handy. Freedom. Do you need freedom?
Yeah. You'll fight for it.
You will fight for it. And how much will you fight for it?
Hell of a lot, mate.
To death.
Just about, yeah.
We will go to war for freedom.
Yeah.
Understanding. Do you need somebody to understand you? Yeah. Justice.
That's a hollow word.
Yeah. Respect. Does anybody in here like it when people don't respect you? Responsibility. Do we have a need of responsibility as human beings? Or do we like being treated like slaves? Happiness. People will do many things for happiness, right? Peace, orientation, recognition, acceptance, loyalty. I have a story about loyalty. I know of a couple. The man sent a letter to his wife. It's not one of those letters you would like to receive. It was a suicide letter. You see, the man found out that his wife had cheated on him. He wrote her a letter where he explained to her how it was her fault that he now killed himself. Because of lack of loyalty. That's a bit, yeah, that's a bit of, but will people do it? Will they kill themselves for lack of loyalty? You don't think that he was in touch with reality? You want to hear the really funny part of the story? This man was a serial cheater. You see, we can maybe sometimes cope with our own mistakes, but sometimes the mistakes of others is the things that gets us down. Curiosity and knowledge. Do people have that? Do animals have that? Yeah? They do. How important is curiosity for animals? How important is freedom for animals? Yeah. Do you know what happens when you put an animal into a cage and it's there for a longer time and it doesn't have contact with anybody around it? Because I've had a parrot and I can tell you, they start plucking off their feathers. Is there any chemical formula to any of these things? No. Is it matter? Can we touch it? No. So tell me, if the human being is only composed of chemistry, how in the world does it need love? That's a good point. What are your brain cells made of? Chemistry. There are none, the chemical formulas for this. For the thing, it's the only things we think about. It's processes of thought. That's all it is. And people kill themselves for imaginary reasons. Is that not interesting? When you have a need, you always have a receiving organ where you can fill the need into. So we take the needs. We have oxygen or air, and we have the lungs. We need to breathe. And it is vital to breathe. You cannot survive without breathing. You cannot decide, well, today I'd rather live on hydrogen than oxygen. It is set. Water, and we have the digestive tract. Same with the food, stomach and the digestive tract. Sunshine, we get in through the skin and through the eyes. And then we have love. And where does love come in?
Soul and spirit.
Do you have a spirit?
Yes.
Oh. So your brain doesn't think for you. You're ahead of, the you're ahead of the presentation here. So where does thoughts come from? Are they chemically produced?
Possible.
Possibly. We'll see. We'll look to it. We'll look to it right now. What is the origin of thoughts? Where would you look? Most would agree we would at least look in the head area, right? But what are thoughts and how are they made? And what role do they play in health? In science, it is believed that thoughts are the result of your neurons burning glucose. They believe it is just a chemical reaction. Science has given the brain the capacity to think. But what is the brain made of? Matter. It is matter. It is chemistry. So let's investigate it a little bit. What do we know about chemistry and what are the limits? We have to understand the limits of chemistry in order to determine whether our brain can think or not, right? So let's look to it. Chemical reactions are set. What does that mean? They always occur in the same way. You don't put two chemicals together and suddenly one day they decide to be something else than they were yesterday. It's always the same. It's predictable. Very nice. We like predictable things, right? It's nice. They're stable. So we have something to stand on. Chemistry can never act, and it can never choose not to react. What do we mean by that? Here we have a lady, and what she's doing. What is she doing? She's watering. Why is she watering the plant? So it doesn't die. That's a very good point. But why is she watering the plant? You take it a little more. What? It's thirsty. Yes. There is a simple answer. The plant can't walk to the water. That's the answer. If the lady were to water it with diesel, could the plant resist? So it couldn't make a decision to say, I'm not gonna drink the diesel today. No? No. Chemistry can never choose not to react. Everything that is chemical must be destroyed from outside. Chemistry can never destroy itself. This is one of the limits of chemistry. So we say you got a plant in your car, and one morning you come out and your windshield looks like this. So now is the question, would you take the windshield out, put it under a microscope to see how it broke itself? Is there anybody in here who would do that? No? I might check where the neighbor's kids was last night instead. Right? That would be the more sensible answer. Yeah? So here we have a tree and we have a man committing murder. Right? And for some reason, the tree isn't getting up. It's not running away screaming bloody murder. Right? Chemistry has no ability to move. Does the human being have ability to move? it can react but never act. This is also why, we can preserve, fruits and send them all the way to Denmark, because we put some stuff around them that made of chemistry, and then we protect them from the little bacteria, because the apples don't destroy themselves, they're destroyed by the bacteria from outside. And all things, if you put them into a nice environment where you protect them in special cases that are airtight and stuff like that, and do all these things, change the circumstances, you can just keep them there because nothing will touch them. Chemistry does not destroy itself. So, our structure and function. We are a human being with many organs, but we are one organism. What governs it all? Where are the starting point? What makes you move? If you have a car and you put fuel in the car, will the car automatically move?
Probably nowadays.
What?
I said probably nowadays it will, because
Probably.
nowadays it will.
Probably nowadays.
Nowadays, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I come from Denmark, and Australian is my first language. So nowadays it will, that was what you said. Yes, but why will it then move nowadays? Because somebody programmed it to, right? It's not capable of doing it on its own. That's what, sometimes we're tricked these days because we have all this artificial intelligence, and we start to think, oh, computers can think for themselves, and we forget that there's a person out there who has made a little program and put into that thing. And then it has the ability to, go around, but only when you give it an input. Yeah. So it needs to be started. And it doesn't, if sometimes there's a button in the car, sometimes there's a person sitting behind a computer and pressing a button. So you're right. Yeah, but it's true. It's very good, and it's very smart that we get these things up, because we need to think about it, and sometimes it can fool us to think, oh yeah, they can move by themselves. Yeah. So we need to understand that when it comes to chemical reactions, we have two things that we need. We have something or when it comes to function, we have two things we need. We have something that we need to sustain the function, but then we also have something that we need in order for the process to start. And we see this in all the objects around us. Everything needs two things. We need something to generate function, and we need something to sustain it. If chemical reactions would happen without something to start them, everything would be a complete mess. You wouldn't be able to control your arms and legs at all, because there would be no starting point, Everything would just go everywhere. That's not how things are, luckily. So where do you find the thing that generates function? You look to what is missing when the person is no longer alive, but still fully intact. Then you can find what generates function. When is a person declared dead? When the brain, but what is it, and what is it about the brain that determines that the person is no longer alive? What are they measuring? What? It's not that they're not breathing. It's because you can keep people on ventilators, So it's not that they're not breathing, but what do they measure in order to determine we turn off the switch now? The electrical current in the brain. We are an electrical chemical system. We do not function by chemistry alone. So, our structure and function. Here we take just a tiny bit of anatomy. It won't be complicated, and we will just go through it quickly. We have here the brain cortex, and the brain cortex is, the outside of the brain. It's It's the brain is divided. We have two brain halves, and then they go down into the limbic system. And the limbic system, and from the limbic system, you have the nerves, and they go out into the body. And we are made so that our right side of the brain controls the left side of the body, and the other way around. And then, of course, we have the 12 cranial nerves that are a little different. And so in the facial part, the right side of the brain controls the right side of the face and stuff like that. Yeah. That's all we need to know. And the reason we need to know it is because we have something that is called one-sided symptoms. So you need to know that when you have problems on this side of the face and on this side of the body, it is still the same brain half you're dealing with. And then we know that the electrical impulse is the thing that needs to be there in order for us to function. A person is declared dead when you cannot measure the electrical current in the brain anymore. And without the electricity, there is no more movement. But what creates the electricity in the brain? What creates the electricity? Thoughts. Somebody says. It's very smart. Can the brain generate its own electricity? Nope. How do we know that? For sure. We had the law before, right? And what does the law teach? Can something that functions, can it ever have its own energy, or does it need energy from outside? Yeah. It needs energy from outside. So the brain cannot control, it cannot make its own electricity. But we have to, now we have to go through them anyway, because now you will have some arguments for it afterwards anyway. So what is the aptitudes of chemistry in the brain? Let's consider what it would look like. If you were going by chemistry, you would always eat right. Why?
Because chemistry never changes.
Chemistry never changes, correct. And if you are set for certain reactions, would chemistry ever go out and take the things that doesn't fit the reaction? No. It only takes what it needs if it is. You would go to bed at the right time. Could you choose to stay awake? No, you couldn't. You would never change behavior, because chemistry never changes. And you would not be able to kill yourself. But people can kill themselves. There would also be no responsibility. Every time somebody would take you to court, you could say, well, my brain made me do it.
Some people do that and get away with it.
If someone, yes, but yeah, with the science we have today, maybe they will. You would have no need of love. You would be happy in a cage. You wouldn't care if your spouse cheated. There would be no learning process possible. Can you teach anything to something that is chemical? No. It is not possible. If you have a need that is non-chemical, the receiving organ must also be so. A spiritual need requires there to be a spirit. And we have one more evidence for that. Here's a car, and you have that one on your display. We still have that on our displays today, right? Yeah, I believe it always will be there, and I'll tell you afterwards why. But why do you have one of these on your car display? What is that telling you over there? That you're out of gas. So when you're out of gas, what needs to happen? Somebody needs to take a decision to go fill up the car. Yeah. And I'll tell you why we'll never get cars that don't have those things. Because who would ever buy a car that could overrule you and choose, now it's time to go fill me up?
Money issues.
When people have an important appointment, would they ever buy a car that could decide, well, we don't take you to the important appointment, but we go fill me up instead? No.
It'll beep at you. I don't think of that.
What?
It'll beep at you.
Yes, it will beep at me, it can bug me, it can annoy me, but it cannot overrule me. And human beings do not like to be overruled. So you will not get a car that has the capacity to overrule you, because we wouldn't put up with it. Yeah.
Some of Elon Musk's cars probably can overrule you.
Well, yeah. So why do we have hunger and thirst?
Basic needs.
It is a basic need, but why do we have hunger and thirst?
Fill their body up.
Exactly. But who is it that needs to know that you need to go refuel if you are only chemistry? Spirit. You have to have a spirit. Can we ignore the signals?
Yeah,
To some extent.
to death.
How long can we ignore it? To the point of death. Have you ever seen a person with anorexia? Yeah. So how is our structure and function in reality? Here we have the brain cortex again, the limbic system, and the nerves crossing. And here we have the spirit above the cortex. And together, these two things together makes the soul.
How do you measure the spirit and the soul?
You can measure this. I will explain about the soul, because the soul you cannot, you can see the results. There will be an explanation for that, but you can not measure the spirit. You can measure the impact of the spirit, because you can measure the electrical current. That's what you can measure. You cannot measure thoughts, but you can measure the result of thoughts. Thoughts are non-measurable. Chemistry is measurable. Electricity is measurable. We can measure what we call emotions, because emotion is nothing but chemical reactions. And we can measure the impact of the thought, because that's the electrical current. Thoughts make the electrical impulse that then supplies the rest of the body with electricity. So chemistry is set. Do you think that we also set for a special kind of electrical impulse? Does it matter what electricity comes into our bodies?
What do you mean? What type of
Sorry, I mean, does it matter what the electrical current that comes into us is? Does it matter? Yes.
240-volt lead, see what happens.
One more time.
A 240-volt lead, or so that touch.
Yes. Yeah. That definitely will not be good for you. That would definitely will not be good for you. But the point is that there are special kind of thoughts that give special kind of electricity. And if you go outside the box of those thoughts, what happens to the body? Breakdown. So, Genesis 2:7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So here we have the dust of the earth, and it becomes a complex body with many organs. And here we have the breath of life, and it becomes a complex spirit. And together, these two things make a living soul. It's like a piano and a player. The piano is the body, the player is the spirit, and the music is the soul. How do you know if the piano player can play the piano? The music that comes out. If the piano is not there, how much music do you have? If the player is not there, how much music do you have? None. The soul is not an entity in itself. We have two entities, and they make a third one combined, but without the spirit and the body together, there's nothing. This is important, you understand that. We are composed of two entities that makes up a third, just like with water. And like with water, hydrogen never becomes oxygen, nor does oxygen become hydrogen, but put together, they make out water. And separated, there is no water. So, how is our needs for love fulfilled? And how important is it? This was actually here that I was supposed to tell the story of my patient, so we will skip that one. But it's a very sad story that somebody will kill himself when they don't get loyalty. And it's not the only story there is out there, unfortunately. So here we have the road of health. How is the need of love fulfilled? If you deviate to each side, if you do not understand how the need of love is fulfilled, where will your car go? Into the death lane. How do we think our need is fulfilled?
People, things.
Why did a man kill himself?
Or his wife was the source of his need for love.
And when your need can no longer be fulfilled, you must die. Why do we have relationships? Here I have some of my relationships. This is my mother, my beautiful mother. This is my dad. And over here we have my friend Diana. And over there we have my lovely sister. And the question is, why do I have these relationships? Do I have these relationships because I have so much love that I want to give to these people? Or do I have these relationships because I need something to eat? So why do you have relationships? Do you have them because you overflow with love?
Some people are.
Some people are, you think?
Some people are, some people aren't.
Ah, really?
Your dysfunctional families
Hmm.
over the years, right?
I tell you, there's not one single person that has a relationship for the purpose of giving love.
They will receive it.
They want to receive it. When we give love what we think is love, why do we give it?
It's on the back.
It's an investment. It is an investment. I'm putting something into the bank. And what happens when I can't catch it? When the cash doesn't come out afterwards, what happens? How do I react?
You're cranky.
Oh, you get cranky. You don't only get cranky. You know what happens when people's love sources die? They start dying.
Yeah, but you're to do something about it, you know, you've got to just move on and say, well, this is the way the world is, you know, this one doesn't like it, this one does. And so you just can't just put it down because of something doesn't go wrong.
If you have enough loss,
I guess so.
you cannot just move on.
Yeah.
You break yourself physically down. Do you know why people go into depression? Do you know, most people think, oh, depression, if they haven't experienced it, at least, they think, oh, depression, you just think some flowery thoughts and it goes away. It's the people that they haven't experienced laying in bed, practically not being able to move your limbs. That is what depression in the end does to you. There's a reason why they go into the hospital and they shock people with electricity, because they can't function anymore. How do you know our motivation for our relationships? Our motivations is revealed in the crisis. It is only in the crisis you see your motivation. Only in the crisis. When people die or do not get us what we expect, give us what we expect, sorry, I'm getting tired. I was 20 years old when my grandma died. I had been living with her and she was like a mom to me. I had experienced depression before in my life because I grew up under certain circumstances, and we had depression also running on our family. And when mama is not happy, children don't grow up to be happy. But I had, gotten out of those things for a little while. But then I came to Germany when I was 20 years old. And 3 weeks into my stay in Germany on the healthcare center, he died out of the blue. Meningitis. Very quick. He didn't expect it. She was like a teenager. She was doing gardening work. She was so functioning. And suddenly she was just gone out of the blue. I didn't make it home for the funeral. Did I cry because she would miss out of so much in her life? Did I think, poor God, he lost a worker? No? I became so sick I could barely get out of bed. And I tried the health way. I was already living the healthy lifestyle. I was on a, what is it called, a health center. We were doing everything already. Nothing helped. They didn't know what to do with me. It was a place filled with doctors also. Then there was this Bible worker. He told me, I know these people can't help you, but I know somebody who can. And I went and I met a little German doctor, taught me about these things. And I tell you, it changed my life. It took many years. It didn't change my life immediately. It changed my life immediately for a little period of time because I listened in the beginning and then I started arguing because I was a conservative Adventist. And I have a sister who says for every single thing. And I thought that scripture didn't need interpretation. And I thought that Sister White definitely doesn't need interpretation. She's much easier to understand than the Bible. Don't you know that? Much easier. You don't know. You do not cry for the one you put in the ground, but you cry for yourself. And you destroy yourself because you're greatly deceived. It took me many years to take this on, because some people,
Sorry to interrupt. So you don't cry for the one like your mother, you buried your father, or this or that, for the fact that they might have went around Australia or done something or other, or went overseas, and then they died suddenly because they suddenly died. I experienced that, and I certainly, I don't, I was quite happy, I was quite good to look after myself. And so I didn't need them to look after me, but I sort of was upset for the fact that they never got to do what they had planned to do. So that's, I don't know, that's what I was about.
hmm,
I would think that a lot of other people would think in the same lines. So well, you'll be just crying for yourself that you've lost your dad or your mum. You're crying for them, it's really not.
hmm.
You're a lot smarter than me, so and worried.
Well, you never know. You never know. You never know. Yeah, yeah. But I think I caught most of what you were saying. So I will just repeat a little bit to be sure, because I'm still dealing with the accent issue. But you said that you don't in general cry for yourself, but you think that we cry for the other one and what they miss.
What they miss.
Okay,
You know, and if
yeah.
somebody goes bankrupt or something, you feel very sad for them because the bankrupt them. And I'm still okay anyway, so it's, unless I was in a partnership or something, I might be whinging for myself then.
Well, yeah, well, some of us, it takes more personal loss to, see that that we cry for ourselves.
I pretty well reckon that you were also crying for your nan, wasn't it? Your grandma.
I wasn't, I tell you, and I was very aware. I was completely aware when it came up. I knew completely. I was not
You
crying
certainly
for.
were, but because you knew your grandma couldn't go and do the gardening or whatever the hell she was doing, and so therefore she lost all of that and the flowers she had about to bloom and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So you must have been crying for her as well.
No. I'm just in general not that loving. No. No. So sorry that no.
So,
No.
different again.
That's very good. So, yeah. Does the law permit you give the same place as you take? No. Because this is a channel. It does not permit you can take on the same place that you give to. Can we fulfill our basic needs out of the same species as ourselves?
We have the same needs.
The one tree can't go to the other and say, can you give me a little sunshine? Make me feel a little warm? No? A need is a need because you can't produce it yourself, right? You need to take in order to give. So here are my relationships. And what happens when people don't treat me the way I like? We stop giving.
Once you got it, I'd move on.
Yes, well, you're a lucky guy. You're a lucky guy. That you must be. It's very nice. How are our needs fulfilled? Oxygen. We need the lungs. That's the receiving organ. And our source is nature. What's the responsibility for fulfilling my need? What?
You revealed it.
Oh, sorry. Water. This time I'll wait. Whose responsibility? Food. Whose responsibility? Who needs to go out into the sun? Me? Yeah. And who's the source of love? Mhm. Responsibility. Okay. So my sister will explain a little bit more about that works and how that works in a little while. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.